So there was a Methodist minister and his wife, a Baptist minister and his wife, and a Unity minister and his wife who were on a cruise together. And the boat capsized and they all drowned. And they all ended up in heaven at the same time. And so they met St. Peter at the pearly gates. And the Methodist minister came up first, and St. Peter said, "I'm sorry, I can't let you in." The Methodist minister said, "Well, why not?" He said, "Because your sin was greed. All you thought about was money. You talked about money, you thought about money. You loved money so much that you even married a woman named Penny." And the Baptist minister walked up and he said, "I'm sorry, I can't let you in either." He said, "Well, why not?" He said, "Because your sin was gluttony. All you ever thought about was food. All you ever wanted to do was eat. You loved food so much you married a woman named Cookie. Can't let you in either." All of a sudden, the Unity minister turns to his wife and said, "It's not looking too good for me either, Fanny." Too much? Some of you laugh, thank you. And that does sort of relate to what I'm talking about today. About love and relationships, and our relationship with our beloved in human form, and our relationship with the beloved of the God, the beloved of ourselves, our divine nature. That's my whole theme this year for Lent. How do we in love with the self, the true self, the divine self? How do we fall in love and be in love and grow and live in love with that divine self? And so, sometimes I think that while that story, it's meant to be funny, but in some ways it's true, because we do sometimes, I believe, seek outside of ourselves a fulfillment, some way to fill what we perceive to be what is missing within us. Have you experienced that at all for yourself? I know that I have. Many ways that I have tried to seek outside of myself to fill or to satisfy what I think is missing. And sometimes we do that in relationships, I think. Sometimes we look for another to fulfill us, to make us whole, so to speak. And however that might show up for us. And so what we know is that that's never going to work. Maybe you've discovered that for yourself, but it's never going to work because no one else possesses that. Someone else can be a reflection for us of that divine love, that divine presence, the love that is us in our lives, but they don't possess it. They can't give it to us because they don't possess what is ours. The love that we are is within us. And so that's what I think Lent for me is about, is spending time in relationship with that divine presence, the divine self, in order for us to experience resurrection. The resurrection of the Christ within us. I thought about this and I thought, well, why? What's the purpose? What's the point? I talk about that a lot. I talk about connecting with that divine presence within us, the Christ within us, meeting the Christ within us, loving the Christ within us, prayer and meditation. And I talk about our only real desire, our sole desire, is to know ourselves as that. To know ourselves as the Christ. To experience what I believe is that holy union of the human and the divine. to experience the sacred marriage of the human and the divine that Jesus represented for us in many ways. And I think that is our deepest desire. But why? If I do that, am I going to get rich? Am I going to be famous? Am I going to have everything I could possibly want? I would say yes and no. That I believe the purpose of entering into and sustaining that relationship of the human and divine within us is that we recognize that everything that we desire comes through us and not to us. That everything that we experience in the physical is a reflection of ourselves. At whatever level we receive and accept and love that divine presence within us. We can seek it outside of us, but whatever we're seeking outside of us cannot fulfill us. Because it is only that which was within us that is going to fulfill us, right? And so, I think there's something within us that calls us to that intimate relationship with God, with the God within us. Our soul is longing for that. And I think sometimes, I believe that the adage, as above, so below, as within, so without, that we're seeking that, and somehow that also plays out in our life experience. That we can experience that with another person, experience that connection as we talk about the love with another person, even though they're not the source of it. And so we seek that. And I talked about that a couple of weeks ago, about how we fall in love with our beloved in the human form. You know, we have that spark, we have the chemistry, and we connect with another person, and we have that euphoric experience of falling in love. And we do the same thing with our divine self, our true self. And then we go through that period of, where the brain starts working again, and we start then questioning, is this the relationship I want to be in? Talked about that last week. And I think we come to a place in our relationships with each other where we do make the commitment, and we commit ourselves to intimacy. Because I think there is something within us that wants to know and to be known. That we want to know ourselves and we want to be known for who we are. The unique expression of God that we are. Everything about us. You experience that in your relationship with your beloved, I think, where tell me about you. I want to know you. I want to know what makes you tick. I want to know what inspires you. I want to know what you're passionate about. Do you remember that, anybody? Or maybe you're there now. Isn't that an exciting place to be in your relationship? I want to know you. And I want you to know me. I want to be vulnerable with you. Not just the surface stuff. I really want to know what makes you tick. And I think we all want to be known. We all want to be known and to be accepted and to be embraced for who we are, not for what we think we should be or who we're trying to be to please someone else, and to be known for that. And as I was meditating on today's topic, I remembered a poem by Uriah Mountain Dreamer. Many of you probably know. Anybody know Uriah Mountain Dreamer? This is called The Invitation. And I believe it speaks to that desire that we have for intimacy with another person. She says, it doesn't interest me what you do for a living. I want to know what you ache for. And if you dare to dream of meeting your heart's longing. It doesn't interest me how old you are. I want to know if you will risk looking like a fool for love, for your dream, for the adventure of being alive. It doesn't interest me what planets are squaring your moon. I want to know if you have touched the center of your own sorrow, if you have been opened by life's betrayals or have become shriveled and closed from fear of further pain. I want to know if you can sit with pain, mine or your own, without moving to hide it or fade it or fix it. I want to know if you can be with joy, mine or your own. If you can dance with wildness and let the ecstasy fill you to the tips of your fingers and toes, without cautioning us to be careful, be realistic. Remember the limitations of being human. It doesn't interest me if the story you're telling me is true. I want to know if you can disappoint another to be true to yourself. If you can bear the accusation of betrayal and not betray your own soul. If you can be faithless and therefore trustworthy. I want to know if you can see beauty even if it's not pretty every day, and if you can source your own life from its presence. I want to know if you can live with failure, yours and mine, and still stand at the edge of the lake and shout to the silver of the full moon, yes! It doesn't interest me to know where you live or how much money you have. I want to know if you can get up after a night of grief and despair, weary and bruised to the bone, and do what needs to be done to feed the children. It doesn't interest me who you know or how you came to be there. I want to know if you will stand in the center of the fire with me and not shrink back. It doesn't interest me where or what or with whom you have studied. I want to know what sustains you from the inside when all else falls away. I want to know if you can be alone with yourself, and if you truly like the company you keep in the empty moments. That is what I think intimacy really means. I've heard somebody say that intimacy can also be heard as into me see. To invite someone to see who we truly are, and to risk being seen for who we truly are in our relationship with our beloved in human form. And I think the same thing applies in our relationship with the divine. That it's important for us to approach our relationship with the divine in that same way. To want to know. To really want to know and to be known at a deep level of our soul. To feel what is true. What inspires me? What is my passion? And to have that intimate connection with the divine. I shared with you a couple of weeks ago that I'm reading this book by Father Richard Rohr called Immortal Diamond, The Search for Our True Self. Father Rohr is a Franciscan priest. If you're not familiar with his work, I highly recommend and encourage it. I want to share with you, I don't mean to be reading to you all day, but I was inspired by something in his book that I want to share with you. He says, secret, quote, or hidden secret, is what people like the psalmist, Paul, Rumi, Hafiz, Bonaventure, Lady Julian, and many mystics call it a secret. And for some reason, it seems to be a well-kept secret. Jesus praises God for, quote, hiding these things from the learned and the clever and revealing them only to the little ones. Well, what is it that the learned and the clever often cannot see? And why do only the little ones see it? The big and hidden secret is this: an infinite God seeks and desires intimacy with the human soul. An infinite God seeks and desires intimacy with the human soul. Once you experience such intimacy, only the intimate language of lovers describes what is going on for you. Mystery, tenderness, singularity, specialness, changing the rules for me, nakedness, risk, ecstasy, incessant longing, and of course suffering. This is the mystical language of the saints. Experience of intimacy, Moses, Jesus, and John the Divine, who personally claimed to know God, are always aware that they have been let in on a wondrous love secret. Anyone not privy to an inner dialogue that is of some kind of I-thou relationship would call such people presumptuous, emotional, foolish, or even arrogant. How could they presume to claim an actual union with the divine? But this is without doubt God's secret in which all the jewels of wisdom and knowledge are hidden, from Colossians 2:3. The insiders know that, quote, anyone who loves is born of God and knows God. Anyone who fails to love can never know God, because God is love, from 1 John 4:8. The emergence of the true self is actually the big disclosure of the secret. And once we discover the secret of that union with God, which I don't really know that words can describe, that words can define what that union is like. That's why we're limited by the words like ecstasy and beauty and specialness, and because they're only symbols that are the best we have to express the experience of union with the divine. And why do we long for that? Because I think in that, all of the efforting stops. All of the struggle and the suffering and the pain that is stimulated by our belief that we're separate stops. Behold, I saw a new heaven and a new earth. It's not some future experience. It's a revelation. It's the revelation of what is true and what is real. There is no more death. There is no more pain. There is no more suffering. It's not just something I think that happens when we die, when our soul goes on to a new experience. I think the promise is now. I think the promise of resurrection is now. And I think that God's self is just there waiting for us to recognize it. And to see through its eyes. And to feel through its heart. To hear through its ears what is true. What is real. What is God expressing in the moment? And I think the promise of that too is that in that awareness, not only do I know myself as the divine, the promise is that I know you as the divine. You as the Christ. Jesus, our master teacher, became Jesus Christ because he awakened. He received that awareness of his divine presence. The Christ is not his last name. Christ is his consciousness that he embodied, that he lived from. And it's your promise, and it's my promise. And I think that is the promise that we have to claim for ourselves through our process of being intimate with our divine self. So that we can become Jan Christ, right? Jan the Christ. Or Monty the Christ. Or Ed the Christ. Or Jessica the Christ. Whatever that is. No. What's alive in me right now, I guess, is, I just want to get on the rooftops and just shout it out, Claim it. Own it. And what I really want is just, and am I hearing that for myself? Am I hearing it for myself? So maybe it's really just my message for me, and you all got it. Maybe. I don't know. And then I think what comes from that is that we become the ones who bring heaven to the earth. We are the ones that are here to create it, to manifest it. It's not going to happen when you die. And are we willing to live for it? Because there's a lot of suffering in the world. There's a lot of confusion and fighting and war and struggle in the world. And I think the promise of it is that I can't just want it for me. It's not just about me. And what I'm going to feel and what I'm going to experience and my being in ecstasy is not about just me. It can't be just about me. I've got to want it for you as well. I've got to want it for all creation as well. And I have to support it in all creation as well. Because I believe it is ours to end suffering, to restore God's kingdom upon the earth. Right? With me? To bring the reign of the kingdom of God upon the earth in manifestation, not just within us. And we can do it. We can do it, right? Right? We can do it. Yes, we can. We can do it. Yes, we can. Sounds like a cheer or something, right? But we can only do it together. Because I do believe that in that awakening, and this is the promise, I think, for all of us, that in that awakening, that we know we are one. There's no separation. There is only the Christ. There is only the light. There is only the Buddha. There is only the divine that is expressing in and through all creation. And when I know that for all creation, then it changes the way I interact with creation. It changes the way I interact with you. I mean, it really. If I know Nancy as the Christ, I believe I will just drop to my knees. What do you need? What do you want? What is alive in you? How can I serve you? And wouldn't we be like that with everyone? And I believe we can be. We can meet every need. We can end suffering and hunger, homelessness. We are the ones. That is intimacy with the divine, within me and within you. Teach me about the divine in you. Show me. I want to know who you are. And I want you to know who I am. And together, we are the risen body of Christ. We are. And we're here to do a great work together. Intimate connection. Those who love God know love. And those who love God love in the world. So I encourage us really to just be with that presence. Fall in love. Live in love. Grow in love. Be in love. And you can't really be in love with yourself without being in love with your neighbor. I am that.